This poor little girl is extremely pitiful. When she was 3 years old, she witnessed her biological mother get shot to death with her own eyes. When she was 8 years old, she caught her adoptive mother stabbing someone to death. Throughout this little girl's childhood, she was always on the run with relatives, but as Lisa grew up, she longed to have a peaceful life like other children. Lisa's adoptive mother, Hannah, was also an orphan from a very young age. When she grew up, she joined training to become a police officer with the wish of becoming one. Her academic results were always top of the class, and she completed all forms of training excellently, unintentionally making a classmate jealous who then provoked her. In anger, Hannah had once caused his nose to fracture, resulting in her expulsion from the school. But before leaving, a high-ranking intelligence officer invited her to join the intelligence team. He requested Hannah to infiltrate and act as an undercover agent in a theft gang. If she succeeded in this mission, she would be exceptionally appointed as an official employee in the Intelligence Bureau. First, he arranged a new identity for Hannah, then trained her in some necessary skills to integrate. Finally, he paved the way for Hannah to approach and gain the trust of someone in that gang. Thanks to her superb driving skills and thorny innate personality, Hannah quickly left a good impression on the gang of thieves. However, she waited a full 2 weeks and still did not hear back from them. Just when she thought she had been eliminated, the gang took initiative to look for her. They needed an excellent driver to carry out a big operation. On the first day of joining, Hannah was chosen by Lisa's biological mother. She wanted Hannah to assist her in stealing a teddy bear for her young daughter on her birthday. Hannah was extremely impressed by the love she had for Lisa. Hence, in her heart she felt somewhat conflicted about betraying them. She also often helped Blondie look after her little girl. Blondie gradually felt affectionate and trusted Hannah. She always stood up for Hannah whenever her gangmates were suspicious. She even confided that she wanted this to be her last job, then she would wash her hands of this life. These confessions made Hannah feel even more guilty. However, things happened too quickly, not giving her much time to deliberate. Hannah was tasked to drive the entire team. The others would infiltrate, control, and rob the gold. But the police appeared right at that moment. As the newcomer, Hannah was immediately suspected by her gangmates. However, Blondie tried her best to protect her, but Hannah's identity was still exposed in the end. Upon seeing Blondie being shot down, Hannah was extremely remorseful, so she decided to take her daughter along. She did not choose to report back to the Intelligence Bureau to work, but secretly brought Lisa elsewhere to live. Hannah changed all the documents and lived with a completely different identity. When Lisa turned 8 years old, during one grocery trip, she suddenly discovered bloodstains on the floor. When Hannah went to take a look, she saw the staff being held hostage by 2 robbers. She quickly arranged a hiding spot for her daughter, then hid in a shelf. Accidentally, Lisa unintentionally held up an orange at the crook's leg. Just as Lisa was about to be discovered, Hannah quickly lured him over to her side and knocked him out from behind. However, this guy was quite strong. She had to take a skewer beside her and stabbed repeatedly into his thighs. Next, the 2 struggled for a gun. Finally, the guy was subdued. His partner also came looking. Fortunately, the police sirens rang out, causing him to escape. At this time, Hannah only removed that guy's mask. Turns out, he was someone from the gang from years ago. Hannah was afraid her whereabouts would be exposed, so that night, she sneaked into the hospital and silently finished him off. Currently, Hannah has a doctor husband and does part-time teaching work. She is very worried that the peaceful family she painstakingly built over the years would be shattered. Hence, she is always trying to conceal the truth from her husband. Unexpectedly, the next day when she went to class, she found out her photo had been published in a newspaper with the headline, "Brave Woman Confronts Robber." This caused Hannah extreme anxiety. That day on her way home, she noticed she was being tailed. Hannah quickly pulled into a rest stop, causing the car to leave. She suggested moving elsewhere to live, but Lisa reacted intensely against it. The little girl was tired of having to familiarize herself with new environments each time. Seeing this, Hannah had to abandon that idea, silently hoping the new identities could conceal her past. Few days later, a woman from the gang managed to track down all the way to the school. Hannah tried to deny her past identity, but that woman suddenly pulled out a knife and attacked her relentlessly, forcing Hannah to fight with all her might. Finally, Hana was forced to stab that woman to death. Tragically, the entire incident was witnessed by a cop. Fortunately, he was her husband's best friend, so not only did he not report her, but even helped Hana clean up the scene. Although the immediate issue was resolved, this was just the beginning of storms to come. In recent days, Lisa kept seeing the image of a mysterious horned figure staring intently at her. However, the little girl's tough personality caused her not to tell anyone. He asked her help for a rather risky matter. In order to repay the favor, Hana was compelled to accept his request. Hana received a tracking device to sneak into a dangerous man's home to plant it. Everything was going smoothly until that man returned home early. Left with no choice, Hana could only jump down from his balcony into the sea to escape. Although she narrowly escaped, her identity was now in the scope of the underworld. The very next day, her cop friend was captured by them. Tracking his location, Hana raided their lair alone and rescued him in a close shave. While escaping, she stopped at a pharmacy to buy medical supplies. Unfortunately, the gang leader tracked and photographed her to blackmail her. Hana chased him down, but the cop stabbed him dead first. However, he had already emailed the photo to his female assistant. Hana had no choice but to track down the assistant herself, but tragically arrived right as the assistant was being attacked by someone else. In the struggle, the briefcase containing her money spilled open. Afraid of being caught, Hana hurriedly fled the scene. She thought the assistant would be grateful for having her life saved. Unexpectedly, the assistant scolded Hana for causing her hard-earned savings over many years to be lost. She threatened Hana to repay an equivalent sum, or she would disseminate that photo online. Hana was left with no choice but to take all the jewelry she had and pawned them off. Even the ring her mother left her could not be kept. After handing the money to that assistant, she discovered a group of gangsters approaching. Hana could only preemptively ambush and take down the first two, then slipped away. She had just barely escaped when the assistant was suddenly shot dead. Hana had to struggle a lot before managing to run down to the courtyard. At that crucial life-or-death moment, Hana recklessly shot at the oil spill, then ran off. Hana continued running half-dead onto the main road. She had no choice but to jump onto a passing truck on the bridge. Although she succeeded in escaping the gangsters, Hana was knocked off the roadside by the impact and passed out. When she regained consciousness, she found herself lying in a hospital. Seeing the police searching for those involved in the recent shootout, Hana hurriedly disguised herself as a nurse and slipped away. However, before she could get outside, she was discovered by someone. She quickly dashed across the hallway and jumped straight down below. But this chase was by no means easy. There were many other police cars blocking and pursuing from all directions. Thankfully, she had undergone professional training. Finally, she succeeded in causing two pursuing vehicles to crash head-on into each other. Hana hid under the bridge and called her cop friend to come pick her up. When she returned home, her husband was already waiting, with an extremely displeased expression. He knew Hana was hiding something from him, but stubbornly refused to tell him. In that instant, Hana had intended to reveal everything, but ultimately made up another excuse instead. She was afraid this peaceful family would shatter. Hana didn't want to get tangled in more trouble, so she advised her cop friend to stop investigating the gangs. That night, while the two were talking on the phone, they realized something had happened on the friend's end. Hana immediately abandoned everything to rush to where he was. She arrived just in time to witness the gang boss finishing off his final kill. Carelessly, Hana allowed herself to be spotted. While escaping, she encountered the head honcho, unexpectedly recognizing he was someone familiar. In class, Hana had a particularly unruly male student who often caused trouble. Due to Hana's difficult past, she knew how to tame the boy. Because of this, his father highly valued her and assigned her to mentor him further. She never imagined he would turn out to be the mob boss and criminal. Luckily this time, he silently let Hana go. However, the very next day, he sent people to Hana's house to warn her. Additionally, he directly met and threatened her that if Hana didn't live quietly, the first to be endangered would be her young daughter, so she also intended to remain silent. But at this exact timing, a woman appeared. She was Lisa's biological mother. Turns out that year she had also survived. However, after treatment she had to serve time in prison, only escaping a few months prior while in transit. After reading that newspaper article, she immediately investigated Hannah. The pain of betrayal, combined with years of separation from her daughter, caused Katie's hatred to grow stronger by the day. Thankfully, her longing for Lisa helped restrain herself. The first thing she did upon finding Hannah was demand Hannah bring her to see her daughter. So first, she brought Katie to the place she had buried the gold years ago, wanting to use it to both compensate and beg Katie to allow her to remain by the little girl's side. Unexpectedly, Katie was extremely adamant. She simply gave Hannah a bullet, then turned and left, abandoning Hannah to die a slow death in that desolate location. With Hannah's intense tenacity for life, she struggled with all her might to crawl away seeking aid. By luck, she found medical supplies in the luggage of a group of campers. She self-treated her wounds, then stole their vehicle to continue onward. Just as Katie broke into Hannah's house, she encountered the father and daughter returning. She only dared to suppress her emotions, silently observing her young daughter. Katie was about to take a photo of Lisa when she was suddenly ambushed from behind. Upon regaining consciousness, she realized she had fallen into the hands of the mob boss. He wanted to thoroughly investigate Hannah's true past. Through Katie, he found out Hannah was actually the undercover agent from that year. Now knowing the truth, he immediately dispatched men to dispose of Hannah. Hannah returned home looking extremely wretched. Thankfully, her doctor husband quickly helped treat her wounds. After finishing, she immediately pleaded with her husband to temporarily bring their daughter somewhere else to hide, then injected herself with stimulants before fleeing. Unexpectedly, even after running very far, she still encountered the gang's men. Only after a very long time did she completely escape the hitmen's control. When she felt it was safe, Hannah contacted her husband, but the phone was in Katie's hands. Turns out the father and daughter had fallen into their hands. One thug passed the phone to Katie, asking her to trick Hannah into surrendering herself in exchange for the little girl. Of course, Katie was no fool. She knew they would not let them go, even if they captured Hannah. Hence, she took initiative to contact Hannah and requested her help in rescuing Lisa together. Hannah pretended to be tricked by Katie to the gang leader's location. Then, catching them unprepared, she immediately took action to restrain the two guys beside her. Unexpectedly, the boss shot his own two men dead without hesitation. Instantly, an uneven battle broke out. There were too many gangsters on their side, while bullets in the two women's guns were limited. If this stalemate continued, they would eventually die for sure. Hannah thought of an idea to act as bait to lure them elsewhere so Katie could save the father and daughter. But before she could act, Katie had already run out ahead of her to bait them to the oil storage area before igniting it and perishing along with the assassins. Hannah suppressed her remorse to finish off the remaining few, then sneaked into the boss's office. She and the father-daughter pair threatened the boss with guns and forced him to let them leave safely. At this time, she felt a little reluctant to shoot him, thinking about his son. Unexpectedly, he chose to pick up a gun first, but she was faster and successfully ended all matters. After surviving this life and death situation, Hannah could finally live truthfully with her real self in front of her husband and child. Thankfully, they still wholeheartedly loved and understood her.